Patrick Russell's hand trembles as he places the vial of his breeding juice into the secure transport container. The label reads, "Human male genetic material, highly valuable." He's acutely aware that this innocuous-looking fluid is about to spark an intergalactic bidding war. The bustling corridors of Nexus Station hum with anticipation. Alien females from various species crowd the auction hall, their eyes fixed on the stage where Patrick's vial will soon be presented. The air crackles with tension as the Barzan contingent enters, led by Vera, a high-ranking official whose determined stride speaks volumes about her mission. As the bidding begins, voices rise in a cacophony of alien languages. Numbers flash across holographic displays, climbing higher with each passing second. Vera's voice cuts through the chaos, her final bid silencing the room. She's won, securing Patrick's services for an exclusive breeding contract. The human government representatives nod in approval. They see more than just a medical transaction. They see leverage in interstellar politics. As Vera approaches to finalize the agreement, Patrick realizes the weight of responsibility now resting on his shoulders. Hours later, Patrick finds himself on a sleek starship bound for the Barzan homeworld. The vessel's viewing port offers a stunning vista of swirling galaxies, but Patrick's mind is focused on the task ahead. He undergoes extensive medical examinations, wincing as alien devices probe and scan his body. Between tests, Patrick attends cultural briefings. He learns that Barzan females like Vera are physically stronger than their male counterparts and hold most positions of power. The revelation sends a shiver down his spine, a mix of fascination and trepidation. In a private meeting, the Barzan leadership reveals the dire truth. Without human genetic intervention, their species faces extinction within 3 generations. Patrick's throat tightens as he grasps the magnitude of his role. Vera escorts Patrick to a state-of-the-art medical facility. The building is a fortress, its walls lined with energy shields and guarded by vigilant Barzan security forces. Vera explains that rival alien species have attempted to steal human genetic material, seeing it as a key to their own species' survival. Inside the facility, Patrick is shown to his quarters. The room is comfortable but clearly designed for function over form. A rigorous schedule is displayed on a holographic screen, detailing the physical demands he'll face in the coming months. As Patrick prepares for his first donation session, his mind races. He's no longer just Patrick Russell, human fertility specialist. He's become a linchpin in interstellar relations, his reproductive capabilities now crucial to the survival of an entire alien race. Suddenly, alarms blare throughout the facility. Red lights flash, and Barzan security personnel rush past Patrick's door. Vera bursts in, her face a mask of concern. "We're under attack," she says, her voice tight with tension. "A rival alien faction. They're after you, Patrick, after your genetic material." Patrick's heart pounds as he realizes the true value of his breeding juice in this vast, complex universe. As Vera leads him towards a secure bunker, he knows that his life will never be the same. The future of the Barzan race, and perhaps the balance of power in the galaxy, now depends on his ability to provide the one thing these alien females can't live without. The facility shook as another explosion rocked its foundations. Patrick's heart raced as Vera guided him through winding corridors, her grip on his arm firm but not painful. The chaos around them intensified with each passing second. "This way!" Vera shouted over the blaring alarms, pulling Patrick towards a heavily reinforced door. She pressed her palm against a biometric scanner, and the door hissed open, revealing a dimly lit stairwell. They descended rapidly, the sounds of combat growing fainter with each floor they passed. Patrick's legs burned from the exertion, but Vera showed no signs of fatigue. Her alien physiology, he realized, was far more resilient than his own. At the bottom of the stairwell, they entered a vast underground chamber. The space hummed with energy, banks of computers lining the walls, and a large holographic display dominating the center of the room. A slender Barzan female with iridescent skin turned to face them as they entered. "Dr. Lyra," Vera nodded in greeting. "The situation?" The geneticist's fingers danced over a control panel, bringing up a tactical display. "The Zorn Imperium," she said, her voice tight. "They've deployed some form of advanced cloaking technology. Our outer defenses were caught completely off guard." Patrick's eyes widened as he took in the scene on the display. Red dots representing Zorn forces swarmed through the facility's upper levels. "Why are they here?" he asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. Dr. Lyra's gaze fixed on him, her large, multifaceted eyes reflecting the room's dim light. "They're here for you, Patrick, or more specifically, for what you can provide." As the doctor explained the unique value of human DNA and its compatibility with various alien species, Patrick felt the weight of his importance grow exponentially. He was no longer just a solution for the Barzan. He was a prize coveted by multiple alien races. A thunderous boom shook the bunker, causing Patrick to stumble. Vera steadied him, her touch sending an unexpected jolt through his body. He looked up at her, noticing for the first time the intricate patterns on her skin, the fierce tenacity in her eyes. "They've breached the upper levels," Vera announced, moving towards the bunker's entrance. "I'll hold them off here." Patrick watched in awe as Vera single-handedly engaged a group of Zorn soldiers that had managed to infiltrate their location. Her movements were a blur of precision and power, her strength far surpassing that of the bulky Zorn warriors. In mere moments, the intruders lay unconscious at her feet. As the immediate threat passed, Dr. Lyra approached Patrick with a grave expression. "We need to create a decoy," she explained, outlining her plan to mix his DNA with inert material to mislead the Zorn. Patrick nodded, understanding the necessity. "Let's do it," he said, following the doctor to a nearby medical pod. As he prepared for the impromptu donation, Patrick couldn't help but notice Vera standing guard at the entrance, her posture tense and alert. The clinical nature of the procedure was overshadowed by the urgency of their situation and the growing connection he felt with his Barzan protector. With the decoy sample secured, Dr. Lyra activated a hidden panel in the bunker's wall. A section of flooring slid away, revealing a sleek transport pod. "Our emergency escape route," she explained, ushering Patrick towards the vehicle. Just as they were about to board, the bunker's main entrance exploded inward. Through the smoke and debris stepped a towering Zorn warrior, his armor gleaming and his eyes fixed on Patrick. "Commander Krell," Vera growled, positioning herself between the Zorn leader and Patrick. "Hand over the human," Krell demanded, his voice a guttural rumble. Instead of responding, Vera launched herself at the Zorn commander. Their battle was fierce but brief, with Vera's superior agility giving her the edge. As Krell stumbled back, Vera seized the opportunity to push Patrick and Dr. Lyra into the escape pod. The narrow confines of the pod forced Patrick and Vera into close proximity as Dr. Lyra took the controls. Patrick could feel the heat radiating from Vera's body, smell the alien yet intoxicating scent of her skin. Their eyes met for a brief moment, an unspoken connection forming between them. The pod shot forward, accelerating through a twisting tunnel. Behind them, they could hear the enraged roars of Commander Krill and his forces. The tunnel opened into a vast hangar where a sleek shuttle waited. They boarded the shuttle with seconds to spare, Dr. Lyra's fingers flying over the controls. As the hangar doors parted, revealing the harsh Barzan landscape, Patrick caught his first glimpse of the alien world he had come to save. The shuttle rocketed into the turbulent atmosphere, leaving the Zorn ground forces far behind. But their relief was short-lived. The shuttle's sensors lit up, detecting multiple Zorn warships entering the Barzan system. As they climbed higher, leaving the planet's surface behind, Patrick realized that their ordeal was far from finished. He looked at Vera, her face set with commitment, and then at Dr. Lyra, her concentration unwavering as she piloted the shuttle. The vastness of space loomed before them, filled with both promise and peril. Patrick took a deep breath, steeling himself for whatever challenges lay ahead. His journey had taken an unexpected turn, but he was ready to face it, for the Barzan, for the delicate balance of interstellar politics, and for the growing feelings he couldn't deny. The vastness of space loomed before them, filled with both promise and peril. Patrick took a deep breath, steeling himself for whatever challenges lay ahead. His journey had taken an unexpected turn, but he was ready to face it, for the Barzan, for the delicate balance of interstellar politics, and for the growing feelings he couldn't deny. As their shuttle ascended through the Barzan atmosphere, the relative calm was shattered by a series of violent jolts. The vessel shuddered, nearly throwing Patrick from his seat. Alarms blared as Dr. Lyra's hands flew across the control panel. "Zorn warships!" she shouted, her multifaceted eyes reflecting the flashing warning lights. "They're targeting us with long-range weapons." The shuttle lurched again, more violently this time. Patrick gripped his seat, squeezing hard. Through the view screen, he saw energy blasts streaking past, barely missing them. Vera leaned forward, her voice steady despite the chaos. "Lyra, take us into the upper atmosphere. We can use the storm clouds to mask our heat signature." Dr. Lyra nodded, her fingers dancing across the controls. The shuttle pitched downward, plunging into a thick layer of roiling clouds. Lightning flashed around them, illuminating the cockpit in brief, stark bursts. As they dove deeper into the atmospheric maelstrom, the barrage of enemy fire lessened. Patrick felt his heart rate slow, but the respite was short-lived. A proximity alarm shrieked, and Dr. Lyra's eyes widened in horror. "Zorn battlecruiser," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "They've found us." The massive ship loomed before them, dwarfing their tiny shuttle. A blue-green beam shot out from the cruiser, enveloping their vessel. Patrick felt a strange weightlessness as the tractor beam took hold. "They've locked on," Dr. Lyra reported, her fingers frantically working the controls. "I can't break free." Patrick's mind raced. They were being pulled in, helpless. Then he remembered the decoy sample. "Wait," he said, an idea forming. "What if we use the fake genetic material as a bargaining chip?" Vera's eyes lit up with understanding. "It's risky, but it might be our only chance." She turned to Dr. Lyra. "Open a channel to the Zorn ship." The view screen flickered to life, revealing the reptilian features of Commander Krell. His eyes narrowed as he recognized Vera. "Barzan," he snarled. "Hand over the human and his genetic material, or be destroyed." Vera stepped forward, her posture radiating confidence despite their precarious position. "We have a counteroffer, Commander. We possess a concentrated sample of human genetic material, far more valuable than the human himself. Release us, and it's yours." Krell's expression shifted from anger to intrigue. "Prove it," he demanded. Dr. Lyra transmitted the falsified data, her fingers trembling slightly as she input the commands. Long seconds ticked by as they waited for Krell's response. Finally, the Zorn commander nodded. "Acceptable? Prepare for docking." As the shuttle was drawn into the battlecruiser's cavernous docking bay, Patrick felt a mix of relief and apprehension. They had bought themselves time, but now faced a potentially deadly face-to-face encounter. The shuttle touched down with a gentle thud. Through the view screen, Patrick could see a contingent of heavily armed Zorn soldiers, led by Commander Krell himself. He clutched the container with the decoy sample, painfully aware of how much rested on this ruse. As they prepared to disembark, Patrick noticed a small wound on Vera's arm, likely sustained during their earlier escape. Without thinking, he reached for the first aid kit. "You're hurt," he said softly, gently cleaning the injury. Vera looked at him, surprise and something else, something warmer in her eyes. "It's nothing," she murmured, but didn't pull away. The moment was broken by Dr. Lyra's urgent voice. "They're waiting. We need to go." Taking a deep breath, Patrick stood. The shuttle doors hissed open, revealing the docking bay. With Vera and Dr. Lyra flanking him protectively, he stepped out to face Commander Krell, the Zorn leader's eyes fixed on the container in Patrick's hands. He reached out, clawed fingers grasping for the prize. Just as the exchange was about to take place, alarms blared throughout the battlecruiser. A holographic display sprang to life, showing multiple Barzan warships dropping out of faster-than-light travel near the planet. Commander Krell's face contorted with rage as he realized he'd been outmaneuvered. With a roar, Krell lunged for the container. Vera moved with lightning speed, intercepting him mid-air. The two crashed to the deck in a tangle of limbs, Vera's superior strength evident as she grappled with the Zorn commander. "Patrick, run!" she shouted, dodging a vicious swipe from Krell's claws. Dr. Lyra grabbed Patrick's arm, pulling him back toward their shuttle. Zorn soldiers opened fire, forcing them to dive behind a stack of cargo containers. Energy blasts sizzled past, leaving scorch marks on the deck. Patrick's eyes darted around the chaotic docking bay, searching for a way to help Vera. He spotted a fallen Zorn weapon just a few meters away, Without hesitation, he sprinted from cover, snatching up the alien gun as he slid across the smooth metal floor. Aiming as best he could, Patrick provided covering fire for Vera. The weapon felt strange in his hands, its recoil unlike anything he'd experienced before. But it was enough to force Krell back, allowing Vera to disengage. The three of them fought their way back to the shuttle, Patrick and Vera working in tandem to hold off the Zorn forces. As they reached the relative safety of their vessel, the entire battlecruiser shuddered violently. The Barzan fleet had begun its assault. Dr. Lyra's fingers flew across the shuttle's controls, bringing the engines to life. Just as they prepared to lift off, Commander Krell made a final desperate lunge for the closing doors. Vera stood at the entrance, her eyes locked with Krell's. In one fluid motion, she delivered a powerful kick that sent the Zorn commander flying back into his own docking bay. The doors sealed shut as their shuttle lifted off. They shot out of the failing docking bay just as its force field collapsed, exposing the area to the vacuum of space. Through the view screen, they watched as the Zorn battlecruiser, under heavy fire from the Barzan fleet, began to retreat. As they flew towards the safety of the Barzan lines, Patrick, Vera, and Dr. Lyra shared a moment of stunned silence. They had survived against the odds. That, Dr. Lyra said, breaking the quiet, was too close. Patrick nodded, still gripping the alien weapon he'd used in the firefight. He looked at Vera, seeing the same mix of relief and lingering tension in her eyes that he felt. As the adrenaline of their escape began to fade, Patrick's mind turned to the implications of what had just occurred. The Zorn's desperate attempt to acquire his genetic material, the Barzan's equally determined defense. It was clear that his role in this interstellar drama was just getting started. With the immediate danger behind them, Dr. Lyra set a course for the Barzan homeworld. As they began their descent through the now calm atmosphere, Patrick knew that new challenges, and perhaps opportunities, awaited them on the surface below. As the shuttle broke through the cloud cover, the sprawling landscape of the Barzan homeworld came into view. Patrick pressed his face against the viewport, taking in the alien terrain with a mix of awe and trepidation. Towering spires of crystalline structures reflected the light of the planet's twin suns, while vast purple forests stretched to the horizon. Their moment of wonder was short-lived. The shuttle's communication system crackled to life, and a stern voice filled the cabin. "Incoming vessel, this is Barzan Central Command. Alter your course immediately. New landing coordinates are being transmitted." Dr. Lyra frowned, her fingers dancing across the control panel. "That's odd. We're being redirected to a location in the Zephyr Mountains." Vera leaned forward, her eyes narrowing. "The Zephyr Mountains? That's a restricted military zone." As they changed course, the lush landscape gave way to craggy peaks and deep valleys. The shuttle descended into a narrow ravine, the walls of rock closing in around them. Suddenly, a section of the mountainside shimmered and disappeared, revealing a massive hangar bay carved into the rock itself. The shuttle touched down with a gentle thud. As the engines powered down, Patrick saw a group of Barzan officials approaching, led by a regal figure adorned in flowing robes of deep crimson. "High Counselor Zara," Vera whispered, her posture straightening. The shuttle doors hissed open, and they stepped out onto the polished floor of the hangar. High Counselor Zara strode forward, her multifaceted eyes scanning each of them in turn. "Dr. Lyra, Guardsman Vera, and Patrick," she said, her voice carrying a hint of both relief and urgency. "We are grateful for your safe return. However, I'm afraid there is little time for pleasantries. The incident with the Zorn has escalated interstellar tensions beyond our worst projections." Without further explanation, Zara turned and gestured for them to follow. They were led through a series of winding corridors, each more secure than the last, until they reached a vast chamber humming with activity. The war room was a marvel of Barzan technology. Holographic displays filled the air, showing the positions of various fleets and planetary systems. Barzan officers moved between the stations, their voices a constant murmur of reports and commands. Zara swept her arm across the room, her expression grave. "As you can see, the situation has become dire. News of our fertility program has spread faster than we anticipated. Multiple species are now vying for access to human genetic material." Patrick's eyes widened as he took in the sheer scale of the galactic chessboard laid out before him. The Zorn attack, he said slowly. It wasn't just about me, was it? Zara shook her head. No, it was the opening move in what could become a much larger conflict. We fear that more powerful races might attempt to acquire humans for their own breeding programs. The implications hit Patrick like a physical blow. He was no longer just a participant in a scientific experiment. He had become a pawn in an interstellar power struggle. Taking a deep breath, Patrick squared his shoulders. What can I do to help? Dr. Lyra stepped forward, her eyes bright with a mix of excitement and apprehension. I have a proposal, she said, pulling up a series of complex diagrams on a nearby holo display. We can accelerate the program using targeted fertility treatments. With your cooperation, Patrick, we could significantly increase our chances of success. As Dr. Lyra outlined her plan, Patrick found his gaze drawn to Vera. The Barzan guardswoman stood at attention, her eyes fixed on the strategic displays, but he could see the tension in her posture. High Counselor Zara listened intently to Dr. Lyra's proposal, her expression unreadable. When the scientist finished, Zara turned to Patrick. The choice is yours, she said solemnly. We cannot force you to participate in an accelerated program. Patrick looked around the room at the faces of the Barzan officials and military personnel. He thought of the Zorn attack, of the desperate measures beings across the galaxy were willing to take. Finally, his eyes met Vera's, and in that moment, he made his decision. I'll do it, he said firmly. Whatever it takes to help the Barzan people and prevent a wider conflict. Zara nodded, relief evident in her features. Then we shall proceed immediately. Dr. Lyra, you will have all the resources you require. Vera, given your genetic compatibility and your connection with Patrick, you will be the primary recipient in this accelerated program. Vera's eyes widened slightly, but she gave a crisp nod. I understand, High Counselor. I am honored to serve. As the group dispersed to begin preparations, Patrick found himself alone with Vera for a moment. The air between them felt charged with unspoken emotions and the weight of their new responsibility. Vera, Patrick began, his voice low, are you sure about this? It's all happening so fast. Vera's expression softened, and she placed a hand on Patrick's arm. I am sure, she said, her voice steady. We have a chance to make a difference, to protect both our peoples. Whatever comes next, we face it together. Their eyes locked, and Patrick felt a surge of something deeper than mere camaraderie. Before he could respond, an alarm blared through the facility, shattering the moment. Alert! Unknown vessel approaching at high velocity! A voice boomed over the intercom. All personnel to battle stations. Patrick and Vera exchanged a look of persistence and rushed to rejoin the others, ready to face whatever new challenge the universe had in store for them. As Patrick and Vera rushed towards the war room, the facility shook with another tremor. The unknown vessel was getting closer. They burst into the command center to find High Counselor Zara and Dr. Lyra huddled around a holographic display. The image showed a massive ship unlike anything Patrick had ever seen. It seemed to shimmer and pulse with an otherworldly energy. What is that? Patrick asked, his eyes wide with a mix of fear and fascination. Dr. Lyra shook her head. We don't know. It's not matching any known configurations in our database. As they watched, the strange vessel slowed its approach and came to a stop just outside the planet's atmosphere. Suddenly, multiple points of light detached from the ship and began descending towards the surface. Energy signatures detected, a Barzan officer called out. They're heading straight for us. High Counselor Zara's face was grim. Activate all defensive measures. We can't risk. She was cut off as the entire room was bathed in a soft, pulsating glow. The energy beings had arrived, passing through the facility's walls as if they were mist. Patrick felt Vera tense beside him, her hand reaching for her weapon. But something about these entities made him pause. They didn't feel threatening. Instead, there was an air of curiosity about them. Making a split-second decision, Patrick stepped forward. Wait, he said, holding up his hands. Let's see what they want. Vera looked at him in disbelief. Patrick, what are you doing? Trust me, he replied, his eyes never leaving the shimmering forms before them. As if responding to his openness, The energy beings began to coalesce, taking on more defined shapes. In moments, they had transformed into humanoid figures of pure, radiant light. One of them stepped forward, its form becoming even more distinct. Patrick could now make out features that were vaguely feminine, with eyes that seemed to hold the depths of the cosmos within them. "Greetings," the being spoke, her voice resonating in their minds rather than their ears. "I am Zephyra of the Luminary. We come in peace and with an offer of assistance." High Counselor Zara, recovering from her initial shock, stepped forward. "I am High Counselor Zara of the Barzan. What is the nature of your assistance?" Zephyra's form pulsed gently as she replied, "We have observed your efforts to combat the fertility crisis that plagues not only your people, but many species across the galaxy. We believe that the human genetic material you seek holds the key to solving this issue on a cosmic scale." Dr. Lyra's eyes widened. "You've been watching us? How?" "Our people have the ability to observe and manipulate energy and matter at will," Zephyra explained. "We have seen the struggles of countless races, all facing the same dire future. But in humans, we see hope." Patrick felt a weight settle on his shoulders. The implications of Zephyra's words were staggering. He wasn't just part of a Barzan breeding program anymore. He potentially held the key to saving multiple species across the galaxy. Zephyra continued, "We propose the creation of a galactic fertility center, a place where human genetic material can be safely and ethically distributed to species in need. Our advanced technology can enhance your existing program, ensuring its success and eliminating the need for conflict between races seeking this resource." High Counselor Zara exchanged glances with Dr. Lyra before turning back to Zephyra. "Your offer is intriguing, but how can we be sure of your intentions?" "Actions speak louder than words," Zephyra replied. "Allow us to demonstrate. Your first human Barzan conception attempt is imminent, is it not? Let us assist. Our technology can greatly increase the chances of success." Dr. Lyra stepped forward, her scientific curiosity piqued. "What exactly do you propose?" "A fusion of our energy manipulation techniques with your medical knowledge," Zephyra explained. "We can create a conception chamber that optimizes genetic compatibility and increases the likelihood of successful fertilization." High Counselor Zara considered for a moment before nodding. "Very well. We accept your offer of assistance provisionally. Dr. Lyra, you will work with the Luminari to integrate their technology into our program." As the scientists began to discuss the technical details, Patrick felt Vera's hand on his arm. He turned to find her looking at him with a mix of emotions he couldn't quite decipher. "Are you ready for this?" she asked softly. "It's all happening so fast." Patrick took a deep breath, glancing around at the Barzan leaders, the Luminari, and the holographic displays showing the gathered alien fleets in orbit. The weight of expectation was almost palpable. "I don't know if anyone can truly be ready for something like this," he replied honestly, "but I know it's important, and I know I want to face it with you." Vera's expression softened, and she nodded. "Together, then." As they stood there surrounded by the swirling energies of the Luminary and the hum of Barzan technology, Patrick couldn't help but feel that they were standing on the precipice of something monumental. The next few hours would not only determine their personal futures, but potentially the future of multiple species across the galaxy. Dr. Lyra approached them, her eyes bright with excitement. "We're ready to begin the preparations. Patrick, Vera, if you'll come with me, we'll start the enhancement procedures." Hand in hand, Patrick and Vera followed Dr. Lyra towards the newly created conception chamber, ready to take the next step in their extraordinary journey. The fate of galaxies rested on their shoulders, but in that moment, all Patrick could focus on was the warmth of Vera's hand in his and the promise of what was to come. "Come." As they entered the conception chamber, Patrick felt a mixture of anticipation and nervousness coursing through him. The room hummed with the combined energies of Barzan technology and Luminari manipulation, creating an otherworldly atmosphere. Dr. Lyra guided them to a raised platform in the center of the chamber. "Please, lie down here," she instructed, her voice steady but tinged with excitement. Patrick and Vera exchanged a glance before complying. As they settled onto the platform, Patrick reached out and took Vera's hand, giving it a reassuring squeeze. The luminary scientists moved around them, their glowing forms pulsing with concentrated energy. "We're ready to begin," Dr. Lyra announced, her fingers dancing across a holographic control panel. "Remember, stay calm and try to relax. The luminary energy will enhance your natural compatibility." Patrick took a deep breath, feeling the air grow thick with anticipation. He looked at Vera, seeing his own mix of emotions reflected in her eyes. As the chamber began to hum louder, Patrick felt a tingling sensation spread across his skin. Suddenly, the room erupted in a blinding flash of light. Patrick instinctively closed his eyes, feeling a surge of energy course through his body. The air crackled with power, and for a moment it felt as if he were floating. Then darkness. The abrupt silence was broken by the sound of emergency alarms. Patrick's eyes fluttered open, his vision blurry. He could make out the dim glow of emergency lighting and the frantic movements of figures around him. "Patrick? Vera? Can you hear me?" Dr. Lyra's voice cut through the fog in his mind. Patrick tried to respond, but his tongue felt heavy. He managed a weak nod, turning his head to look for Vera. She lay beside him, her eyes closed but her chest rising and falling steadily. As his senses slowly returned, Patrick became aware of a strange sensation. It was as if a warm current flowed between him and Vera, connecting them on a level he couldn't quite comprehend. Dr. Lyra's face came into focus above him, her expression a mix of concern and hardly restrained excitement. "The conception was successful," she said, her voice low and urgent. "But there have been unexpected developments." Before Patrick could ask for clarification, he heard High Counselor Zara's voice ring out through the chamber. "We're under attack. The Zorn have launched an offensive against our orbital defenses." The room erupted into a flurry of activity. Patrick struggled to sit up, his head spinning. He reached out for Vera, finding her hand and feeling a jolt of energy pass between them. Vera's eyes snapped open, meeting Patrick's gaze. In that moment, he heard her voice in his mind, clear as day. "Patrick? What's happening?" Startled, Patrick recoiled slightly. Vera's eyes widened in surprise, and he realized she had heard his unspoken response. "Fascinating," Dr. Lyra murmured, observing their interaction. "It seems the luminary energy has created a temporary telepathic link between you two." Before they could process this new development, the facility shook with the impact of a distant explosion. High Counselor Zara approached, her face grim. "We need to move you to a secure location immediately. The hybrid embryo's accelerated growth is emitting energy pulses that can be detected by advanced sensors." Patrick helped Vera to her feet, noticing with shock that her abdomen had already begun to swell visibly. "How is this possible?" he asked, his voice hoarse. "The luminary energy has accelerated the fetal development far beyond our expectations," Dr. Lyra explained as they hurried from the chamber. "We need to get Vera to a specialized medical bay equipped with luminary technology." As they made their way through the facility's winding corridors, Patrick felt a surge of protective instinct. Through their newfound telepathic link, he could sense Vera's mix of wonder and fear at the rapid changes happening within her body. Suddenly, an explosion rocked the hallway ahead of them. Through the smoke, Patrick saw the hulking forms of Zorn soldiers emerging. Without hesitation, he pushed Vera behind him, scanning the area for a weapon. "This way!" Dr. Lyra called, indicating a side passage. As they turned to follow her, Patrick spotted two fallen Barzan guards. In a split-second decision, he darted forward, scooping up their weapons. The movement felt strangely fluid, as if his body were responding to some new, heightened instinct. Tossing one of the weapons to Vera, Patrick took up a defensive position. Through their mental link, he coordinated their movements without a word. Together, they managed to hold off the Zorn soldiers long enough for a group of luminary to arrive, their energy manipulation creating a barrier between them and the attackers. "We need to get to the evacuation ship," High Counselor Zara announced, joining them as they continued their frantic journey through the facility. "It's our only chance to ensure the safety of the hybrid child and its parents." As they raced towards the hidden hangar, Patrick could feel Vera's discomfort growing. The accelerated pregnancy was taking its toll, and they were forced to stop several times for Dr. Lyra to administer emergency care. "We're almost there," Patrick reassured Vera, both verbally and through their mental connection. He could sense her willpower, matching his own drive to protect their unborn child. The sound of battle grew louder as they approached the hangar. Commander Krell's voice echoed through the corridor, barking orders to his Zorn soldiers. Patrick tightened his grip on his weapon, preparing for the fight ahead. As they rounded the final corner, time seemed to slow. Patrick saw the Zorn squad, their weapons raised. He felt Vera's presence in his mind, their actions perfectly synchronized. The luminary's energy swirled around them, creating a shimmering barrier. In that moment, as the fate of galaxies hung in the balance, Patrick knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, he and Vera would face them together. The battle for their future, and the future of countless species across the universe, was about to begin. The hangar doors loomed ahead, a promise of escape amidst the chaos. As they sprinted toward salvation, the air crackled with energy. Luminary barriers flickered around them, deflecting Zorn fire. Patrick and Vera moved in perfect synchronization, their newfound telepathic link guiding their every step. They burst into the hangar just as another explosion rocked the facility. Through the smoke, Patrick saw their ticket to freedom, a sleek evacuation ship, engines humming with anticipation. "Hurry!" High Counselor Zara shouted, ushering them towards the open hatch. As they clambered aboard, Patrick felt Vera stumble. He caught her, alarmed by the rapid swelling of her abdomen. Through their mental connection, he sensed her discomfort and fear. "Dr. Lyra," he called out, "something's wrong." The Barzan doctor rushed to their side as the ship's hatch sealed shut. "The hybrid's growth is accelerating beyond our predictions," she muttered, running a scanner over Vera's midsection. "We need to get her to the medical bay immediately." The ship lurched as it took off, inertial dampeners struggling to compensate for the hasty departure. Patrick supported Vera as they made their way through the narrow corridors, the sounds of battle fading behind them. In the medical bay, a team of luminary scientists awaited them. Their glowing forms pulsed with concentrated energy as they prepared for the unprecedented birth. Dr. Lyra helped Vera onto a biobed, its surface instantly molding to her body. "Patrick," Vera's voice echoed in his mind, tinged with panic. "It's happening too fast." He squeezed her hand, projecting calm through their link. "I'm right here. We're in this together." The ship shuddered as it broke through the Barzan atmosphere. Alarms blared, and the captain's voice crackled over the intercom. "Zorn vessels in pursuit. All hands, brace for evasive maneuvers." Dr. Lyra worked feverishly, her hands dancing over holographic controls. "The hybrid's energy emissions are fluctuating wildly," she reported. "We need to stabilize them before—" Her words were cut off as Vera cried out, her back arching off the biobed. The medical bay filled with a blinding light, forcing Patrick to shield his eyes. When the glow faded, he heard a sound that made his heart skip a beat, the cry of a newborn. "It's a girl," Dr. Lyra announced, her voice filled with awe. "And she's extraordinary." Patrick blinked away the spots in his vision, focusing on the tiny being in the doctor's arms. The infant was a perfect blend of human and Barzan features, with an added ethereal quality that seemed to shimmer in the air around her. As Dr. Lyra placed the child in Vera's arms, Patrick felt a surge of emotion through their mental link. Love, wonder, and a fierce protectiveness washed over him. "She's beautiful," Vera whispered, both aloud and in his mind. Their moment of peace was shattered by another violent shake of the ship. The captain's voice came through again, tense and urgent. "Massive energy surge detected from the Barzan homeworld. All personnel, prepare for emergency FTL jump." Dr. Lyra's eyes widened. "The birth must have triggered a chain reaction in the planet's energy field. We need to get as far away as possible." The medical bay became a flurry of activity as the luminary scientists secured equipment and prepared for faster-than-light travel. Patrick held on to Vera and their newborn daughter, creating a protective cocoon around them. As the ship's engines whined, building up to the jump, Patrick felt a strange sensation through his link with Vera. It was as if a third presence had joined their mental connection, small but blindingly bright. The infant opened her eyes, revealing irises that seemed to contain swirling galaxies. In that moment, Patrick knew their lives would never be the same. The ship lurched, stars streaking past the viewports as they made the jump to FTL. They were leaving behind the only home Vera had ever known, fleeing into an uncertain future with a child whose very existence could reshape the galaxy. As they hurtled through the cosmos, pursued by forces that would stop at nothing to claim their daughter, Patrick made a silent vow. No matter what challenges lay ahead, he would protect his new family, even if it meant taking on the entire universe. The evacuation ship pushed its engines to the limit, making a series of rapid jumps through different star systems. Each transition sent a shudder through the vessel, rattling equipment and fraying nerves. In the medical bay, Patrick and Vera huddled close, their newborn daughter cradled between them. Through their mental link, they shared a mixture of exhaustion, exhilaration, and growing concern. "We need to name her." Vera's thoughts brushed against Patrick's mind. He nodded, gazing down at the infant's otherworldly eyes. "What about Lyra?" he suggested, both mentally and aloud. "To honor the doctor who's done so much for us." Vera's face softened into a smile. "Lyra," she repeated, testing the name. "It's perfect." Dr. Lyra, overhearing the exchange, paused in her work to offer a grateful nod. "I'm honored," she said, her voice thick with emotion, "and I promise to do everything in my power to keep her safe." As if in response to her name, baby Lyra let out a soft coo. The air around her shimmered, and Patrick felt a surge of energy through their telepathic connection. The luminary scientists nearby immediately took notice, their glowing forms pulsing with increased intensity. "Fascinating," one of them murmured, adjusting a sensor array. "The child's energy emissions respond to emotional stimuli. This could be the key to solving fertility issues across multiple species." Before they could delve further into this discovery, the ship lurched violently. Alarms blared throughout the vessel, and Captain Karan's voice crackled over the intercom, tight with tension. "Zorn battlecruiser detected. All power to engines and shields." The medical bay erupted into a flurry of activity. Dr. Lyra and the luminary scientists scrambled to secure equipment and protect their precious data. Patrick held Vera and Lyra close, his mind racing for a solution. Suddenly, an idea struck him. It was risky, potentially dangerous, but it might be their only chance. He locked eyes with Vera, sharing his plan through their mental link. She hesitated for a moment, then nodded, her expression resolute. "Dr. Lyra," Patrick called out, raising his voice above the chaos, "is there a way to amplify Lyra's energy emissions, to create some kind of pulse that could disable the Zorn ships?" The Barzan doctor's eyes widened in surprise, then narrowed in concentration. She turned to the luminary scientists, engaged in a rapid-fire discussion of energy matrices and quantum resonance. "It's possible," she finally said, "but the risk to both Lyra and our ship would be significant." At that moment, Captain Karan's voice came through again. "Hull breach in Section 4. We can't take much more of this." Patrick met Dr. Lyra's gaze, his decision made. "We have to try. It's our only chance." With a nod, Dr. Lyra set the plan in motion. The luminary scientists quickly constructed a makeshift amplification chamber, their energy manipulation abilities allowing them to repurpose medical equipment with astonishing speed. As they worked, Patrick and Vera focused on keeping Lyra calm. Through their shared mental connection, they surrounded their daughter with love and reassurance, creating a bubble of serenity amidst the chaos. "Energy pulse charged at 50%, one of the luminary announced. "Zorn vessel closing in." The ship rocked with another impact. Warning lights flashed, indicating multiple system failures. Time was running out. 75%. Patrick could feel the buildup of energy through his link with Lyra. It was like holding a star in his arms, beautiful and terrifying in its intensity. 90%. Vera's grip on his hand tightened. In her eyes, he saw a reflection of his own persistence and fear. "Energy pulse ready." Captain Karan's voice cut through the tension. "Zorn battlecruiser in firing range. It's now or never." Patrick took a deep breath, locking eyes with Vera one last time. Together, they nodded to Dr. Lyra. "Activate the pulse," Patrick said, his voice steady despite the turmoil in his heart. Dr. Lyra's fingers flew across the controls. For a moment, everything seemed to hold its breath. Then, the world exploded in light. A wave of brilliant energy burst from the ship, expanding outward in all directions. The force of it sent the evacuation vessel tumbling through space, alarms screaming as systems failed across the board. Through the viewports, Patrick caught a glimpse of the Zorn battlecruiser, its lights flickering and dying as the energy pulse washed over it. But there was no time for celebration. "Life support failing," Captain Karan's voice crackled through damaged speakers. "Navigation offline." As the ship spun out of control, Patrick clutched Vera and Lyra close. Through their mental link, he felt their fear, their love, and a strange sense of calm emanating from their infant daughter. Suddenly, a new voice cut through the chaos. High Counselor Zara, her tone urgent, but controlled. "Unknown planet detected in nearby system. It's our only chance." With a bone-jarring shudder, the ship changed course. Patrick caught a glimpse of a blue-green world growing larger in the viewport, cloudy atmosphere swallowing them as they began their descent. As klaxons blared and the deck plating groaned under the strain, Patrick held his family tight. Whatever waited for them on the surface of this alien world, they would face it together. The last thing Patrick saw before the ship disappeared into the planet's cloud cover was the faint shimmer of energy surrounding baby Lyra. In that moment, he knew their journey was just the beginning. It was, in many ways, only just beginning. The beginning. The ship plummeted through the planet's atmosphere, alarms blaring as the hull superheated from the friction. Patrick held Vera and Lyra close, their mental link pulsing with shared fear and drive. Captain Karan's voice crackled over the failing intercom. "Brace for impact." With a deafening roar, the vessel slammed into the surface, carving a deep furrow through dense alien foliage. Metal screamed and twisted, but the advanced design held together. As the ship finally ground to a halt, an eerie silence fell, broken only by the hiss of escaping gases and the crackle of damaged circuitry. Patrick blinked, disoriented. A shimmering energy field surrounded him, Vera, and Lyra. The luminary technology had protected them from the worst of the impact. He helped Vera to her feet, cradling their daughter. "Is everyone all right?" Dr. Lyra's voice called out, strained but steady. As the emergency force field dissipated, Patrick surveyed the chaos of the medical bay. Equipment lay strewn about, but the Barzan doctor was already moving, checking on the other survivors. Captain Karan emerged from the bridge, a gash on his forehead but his eyes alert. "Status report," the captain barked, helping a dazed crew member to their feet. "Hull integrity at 62%, one of the remaining luminary scientists, Zara reported, her glowing form pulsing with effort as she interfaced with the ship's systems. "Life support stable, but communications are down." Patrick made his way to a cracked viewport, peering out at their new surroundings. Towering alien trees loomed overhead, their leaves shimmering with an otherworldly bioluminescence. 2 moons hung in the sky, casting a pale, ghostly light over the landscape. "The air," Vera whispered, her thoughts brushing against Patrick's mind. "It's breathable." Dr. Lyra confirmed this with a quick scan. "Oxygen levels are sufficient, but there are unknown elements present. We should exercise caution." Captain Karan wasted no time organizing their ragtag group. "We need to establish a perimeter defense. We don't know what kind of life forms might be out there." As the crew set to work, Patrick assisted in salvaging supplies from the wreckage. Emergency rations, portable energy cells, and medical equipment were carefully extracted and inventoried. All the while, he kept a watchful eye on Vera and Lyra, noting with concern the erratic pulses of energy emanating from their daughter. Night fell quickly on this alien world. The forest around them came alive with pulsing bioluminescence, casting eerie shadows across the crash site. The survivors huddled close to the ship, the strange beauty of their surroundings doing little to ease their apprehension. It was Zara who first detected the movement. "Multiple life forms approaching," she announced, her energy field fluctuating with tension. They emerged from the forest like living shadows, humanoid in shape, but with skin that glowed with patterns of light. Multiple limbs moved with uncanny grace as they approached the crash site, their eyes wide and curious. Patrick felt a surge of protective instinct, but something held him back from reacting defensively. He glanced at Vera, sensing her similar hesitation through their mental link. Baby Lyra, nestled in her mother's arms, began to emit a soft, pulsing glow. "We need to try communicating," Patrick said, his voice low but firm. He looked to Captain Curran, who nodded reluctantly. Slowly, carefully, Patrick and Vera stepped forward, Lyra cradled between them. The alien beings stopped their approach, their bioluminescent patterns shifting in what seemed like a response to the family's presence. As they drew closer, Lyra's energy emissions intensified. A visible aura surrounded the family, casting a warm, golden light that contrasted with the cool bioluminescence of the forest. The aliens reacted with clear awe, their forms seeming to bow in reverence. One alien, distinguished by brighter, more complex light patterns, moved to the front of the group. It extended a multi-jointed limb towards Lyra, not quite touching, but close enough for Patrick to feel a strange tingling sensation through his mental link with his daughter. Vera gasped softly. "Patrick," she whispered aloud, I think Lyra is communicating with them." Indeed, the baby's eyes were wide open, filled with swirling galaxies as they had been at her birth. The lead alien's own eyes, large and faceted, reflected the same cosmic dance. For a long moment, no one moved or spoke. Then, without warning, the alien's bioluminescent patterns shifted dramatically. It turned to its companions, emitting a series of complex light pulses. The other aliens responded in kind, their bodies becoming a symphony of light and motion. "What's happening?" Captain Curran demanded, his hand hovering near his weapon. Before Patrick could respond, he felt a gentle pressure in his mind, not from Vera or Lyra, but something entirely new. Images and sensations flooded his consciousness. A dying world, a prophecy of star beings, the promise of renewal. "They've been waiting for us," Patrick said, his voice filled with wonder. "They call this planet Novus, and themselves the Novusians, and they believe Lyra is the key to saving their world." As if in response to his words, the forest around them seemed to come alive. Plants grew at an accelerated rate, their bioluminescence intensifying. The very air felt charged with energy, centering on the tiny form of baby Lyra. Dr. Lyra, who had been monitoring the situation closely, approached with her scanner. "The child's energy signature is affecting the local ecosystem," she reported, her voice a mix of scientific fascination and awe. "It's as if she's jump-starting the planet's life force." The lead Novusian, whom Patrick found himself mentally dubbing Lumina due to her brighter glow, made a gesture that seemed both welcoming and urgent. Through the nascent telepathic link, Patrick understood. They were being invited to a place of safety, away from the exposed crash site. Captain Curran, ever cautious, spoke up. "We can't abandon the ship. It's our only way off this planet if things go south." Lumina's light patterns shifted again, and Patrick received another mental impression. "They can help us hide it," he translated. "They have some kind of biotechnology that can camouflage the ship within the living forest." As the group debated their next move, Patrick looked down at Lyra, then out at the alien, yet somehow welcoming world around them. He sensed Vera's thoughts aligning with his own. Perhaps this wasn't just a crash landing, but the beginning of something far greater. The decision made, the survivors began to gather their salvage supplies. As they prepared to follow the Novusians into the depths of the bioluminescent forest, Patrick couldn't shake the feeling that their true journey was only just beginning. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. Humans, aliens, and one extraordinary child who might hold the key to healing worlds beyond their imagining. The tranquility of Novus was short-lived. As Patrick and Vera settled into their new surroundings, alarms blared from the salvage ship systems. Captain Curran's voice crackled over the makeshift communication network. Hostile forces detected approaching the planet. The news sent a ripple of fear through the survivors and their Novusian allies. Patrick felt Vera's anxiety spike through their mental link, matched by a surge of protective instinct from baby Lyra. "We need to prepare," Patrick said, his voice steady despite the tension coursing through him. "We can't let them take this world from us." Captain Curran wasted no time implementing emergency protocols. The crash site, now concealed by Novusian biotechnology, became a hive of activity. Humans and Novusians worked side by side, their differences forgotten in the face of a common threat. Patrick found himself working alongside Lumina, the lead Novusian, to fortify the perimeter. They used a combination of salvaged ship parts and living Novusian structures to create a network of defenses. These biostructures, Patrick marveled, watching as a Novusian manipulated a glowing plant into a protective barrier. They can absorb energy? Lumina's bioluminescent patterns shifted in affirmation. Through their rudimentary mental link, Patrick understood that the structures could not only absorb energy attacks, but redirect them. Meanwhile, Dr. Lyra and Zara had sequestered themselves in a makeshift laboratory, poring over data from their scans of baby Lyra and the surrounding ecosystem. Their breakthrough came as the first signs of the approaching fleet appeared in Novus's skies. "Patrick, Vera?" Dr. Lyra called, her eyes wide with excitement and trepidation. "We've made a discovery about Lyra's abilities." The parents listened intently as Dr. Lyra explained their findings. Baby Lyra's unique energy signature could be amplified and channeled through the bioluminescent plants of Novus. With the right equipment, they could potentially create a planetary-scale energy field, cloaking the entire world from external scanners. "But there's a risk," Zara added, her energy form pulsing with concern. "Lyra would need to be connected to a central distribution node. The strain on her could be significant." Patrick and Vera exchanged a look, their mental link buzzing with shared worry and persistence. The decision to potentially endanger their child caused great concern, but the alternative, facing the incoming hostile fleet unprotected, was unthinkable. "We'll do it," Vera said, her voice barely above a whisper. Patrick nodded, pulling his family close. The Novusians, understanding the urgency, quickly constructed a massive organic energy amplification chamber at the heart of their main settlement. At its center, a protective cocoon awaited baby Lyra, surrounded by a network of glowing vines that would connect her to the planet's energy grid. As Patrick and Vera placed their daughter into the cocoon, the approaching fleet entered Novus's atmosphere. The moment Lyra was connected, the planetary cloaking field sprang to life. The world around them seemed to shimmer and then stabilize, as if nothing had changed. For a moment, hope surged through the defenders, but their relief was short-lived. A lone Zorn scout ship, equipped with advanced sensors, managed to penetrate the cloak and pinpoint their location. Alarms blared as energy weapons rained down on their position. The biostructures Patrick and Lumina had constructed sprang to life, absorbing and redirecting the attacks. But the onslaught was relentless. Captain Karan's voice cut through the chaos, coordinating their defense. Patrick found himself at a control interface, his growing connection to Novusian technology allowing him to optimize the living defenses in real time. Vera, her Barzan physiology enhanced by exposure to Novusian energy, led a group of defenders against Zorn ground troops that had breached their outer perimeter. Her strength was incredible, but the enemies kept coming. In the heart of the amplification chamber, Dr. Lyra and Zara worked frantically to stabilize the fluctuating cloaking field. The Zorn weapons were having an unexpected effect on Novus's ecosystem, accelerating the planet's energy decay. "We need more power," Dr. Lyra shouted over the din of battle. "We have to channel more of Lyra's energy to maintain the field." As they increased the power draw, baby Lyra's distress manifested in intense energy pulses. Systems on both sides flickered and failed as the waves of power washed over the battlefield. Patrick and Vera, feeling their daughter's pain through their link, abandoned their posts and raced to the amplification chamber. They found Lyra enveloped in a cocoon of pure energy, her tiny form changing rapidly as her hybrid physiology adapted to the extreme conditions. As they reached out to comfort their child, the chamber doors burst open. Commander Krell, leader of the Zorn forces, stormed in with an elite squad. The two groups faced off, weapons raised, with baby Lyra's pulsing energy cocoon between them. In that moment of heightened tension, Lyra's cocoon expanded explosively. Raw power engulfed the chamber, immobilizing everyone within range. A stunned silence fell over the battlefield, broken only by the soft hum of energy. In the stillness, Zara made a decisive move. The luminary scientist interfaced directly with Lyra's energy field, establishing a temporary truce. Suddenly, all present, human, Novusian, and Zorn alike, found themselves swept into a shared vision of the galaxy's future. They saw worlds ravaged by conflict and resource depletion, civilizations crumbling under the weight of their own ambitions. But they also glimpsed the potential for renewal, for cooperation. At the center of it all was Lyra, a bridge between species, a key to unlocking the secrets of human-alien hybridization. As the vision faded, the combatants found themselves changed. Commander Krell, his face a mask of shock and revelation, lowered his weapon. "Stand down," he ordered his troops, his voice hoarse. Patrick and Vera cradled their now conscious daughter, watching as representatives from each species gathered in the energy chamber. The air hummed with possibility as discussions of peace began, centered around the extraordinary child in their arms. As the sun set on Novus, marking the end of one era and the dawn of another, Patrick and Vera stood at the edge of their settlement. Alien ships descended from the sky, not with weapons, but with supplies and personnel. Their daughter nestled between them, cooed softly, her eyes reflecting the stars above, stars that now held the promise of a united future. Future. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. Humans, aliens, and one extraordinary child who might hold the key to healing worlds beyond their imagining. As the years passed, Novus underwent a remarkable transformation. The once desolate crash site blossomed into a thriving metropolis, its skyline a harmonious blend of sleek technology and organic Navusian architecture. Bioluminescent structures pulsed with life, their gentle glow a testament to the symbiosis between the planet's native species and its new inhabitants. Patrick and Vera found themselves at the heart of this burgeoning society, their roles evolving from survivors to pivotal figures in the planet's governance. They worked tirelessly to oversee the integration of various alien species, their days filled with diplomatic meetings and cultural exchange programs. Lyra, now a toddler with wild curls and eyes that still held the cosmos, became the living embodiment of hope for this new world. Her presence seemed to accelerate the planet's healing, coaxing vibrant flora from once barren soil and stabilizing the fragile ecosystem. One morning, as Patrick watched Lyra playing in a garden of iridescent flowers, he felt a familiar tingle at the base of his skull. Through their mental link, he sensed Vera's urgency. "Patrick," her voice echoed in his mind, "Dr. Lyra needs us at the research facility. It's about Lyra." He found them in the heart of the massive living structure that housed the scientific council. Dr. Lyra, her face a mix of excitement and concern, gestured to a holographic display teeming with data. "We've made a breakthrough," she explained, her words tumbling out in a rush. "Lyra's genetic makeup. It's not just unique, it's adaptive. Her DNA is constantly evolving, incorporating traits from the species around her. We believe this could be the key to solving the galaxy-wide fertility crisis." Vera's grip on Patrick's hand tightened. "What does this mean for our daughter?" Before Dr. Lyra could respond, alarms blared throughout the facility. Captain Karan's voice crackled over the communication system. "Security breach in Sector 7. All personnel evacuate immediately." Patrick's combat instincts, honed over years of training with Navusian guards, kicked into high gear. He sprinted towards Lyra's play area, Vera close behind. They found their daughter surrounded by a group of masked intruders, their weapons trained on the child. Step away from her," Patrick growled, his body coiled for action. The lead intruder, a tall figure with mottled green skin, sneered. "This abomination threatens the purity of all our species. We're taking her, for the good of the galaxy." Vera's eyes flashed with fury. Her Barzan strength, enhanced by years of exposure to Novus's unique environment, surged through her muscles. "You'll have to go through us first," she snarled. The room erupted into chaos. Patrick ducked under a swinging fist, using his momentum to throw one attacker into another. Vera moved with lightning speed, her enhanced reflexes allowing her to disarm two intruders simultaneously. Amidst the fray, Lyra stood unnaturally still, her small face scrunched in concentration. Suddenly, a wave of energy pulsed from her tiny form, washing over friend and foe alike. Everyone in the room froze, held in place by an invisible force. In the eerie silence that followed, High Counselor Zorn strode into the room, flanked by Galactic Council security. His eyes widened at the scene before him. "It seems," he said, his voice carrying a note of awe, "that we've underestimated the potential of human-alien hybridization." As the paralysis wore off and the intruders were apprehended, Patrick and Vera rushed to Lyra's side. The child looked up at them, her eyes swirling with galaxies. "I didn't want anyone to get hurt," she said softly. High Counselor Zorn approached the family, his expression thoughtful. "What we've witnessed here today, it could change everything. I have a proposal for you, one that could bring hope to countless worlds across the galaxy." Patrick and Vera exchanged a glance, their mental link buzzing with a mix of curiosity and apprehension. As Zorn outlined his plan for a galactic tour, showcasing Lyra's abilities and the potential for human-alien cooperation, they felt the weight of an impossible decision settling on their shoulders. The coming days were a whirlwind of debate and preparation. The proposal sparked heated discussions among Novus's leadership and the Galactic Council. Patrick and Vera sought counsel from their closest advisors, weighing the potential benefits against the risk to their daughter. Finally, after sleepless nights and long conversations, they made their choice. They would embark on this unprecedented journey, but on their own terms. As they boarded the Hope's Ember, a ship that gleamed with the fusion of Novusian biotechnology and advanced defensive systems, Patrick felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. Vera squeezed his hand, her thoughts aligning with his own. Lyra, perched on her father's hip, gazed out at the gathered crowd with wide-eyed wonder. The ship's engines hummed to life, its protective bubble shimmering into existence. As they lifted off from Novus's surface, Patrick looked down at his daughter, then out at the star-filled expanse before them. Whatever lay ahead in the vast reaches of space, they would face it together, a family at the heart of a galactic revolution. As the Hope's Ember lifted off from Novus's surface, Patrick felt the familiar rumble of the engines through the ship's deck. He gazed out at the star-filled expanse before them, his arm wrapped protectively around Vera's waist. Lyra, perched on her mother's hip, reached out towards the viewport, her tiny fingers tracing the patterns of distant constellations. "First stop, Zorn Prime," Captain Karan announced over the ship's comm system. "Estimated arrival in 72 hours. Patrick exchanged a glance with Vera, their mental link buzzing with a mixture of anticipation and apprehension. The choice to begin their galactic tour on the homeworld of their former enemies was bold, but necessary. If they could demonstrate the power of reconciliation there, it would set a powerful precedent for the rest of their journey. The 3 days in transit passed in a flurry of preparation. Patrick spent hours in strategy meetings with the ship's security team, analyzing potential threats and escape routes. Vera worked closely with Dr. Lyra and the scientific contingent, refining their presentation on the benefits of human-alien hybridization. Lyra, oblivious to the weight of expectation on her small shoulders, delighted in exploring every nook and cranny of the ship. Her laughter echoed through the corridors, a reminder of the hope they carried with them. As they dropped out of faster-than-light travel, the looming form of Zorn Prime filled the view screen. The planet's surface was a patchwork of metallic grays and browns, its industrial sprawl visible even from orbit. "Quite a contrast from Novus," Vera murmured, her grip on Lyra tightening instinctively. The ship descended through the atmosphere, touching down on a massive landing pad in the heart of the Zorn capital. As the boarding ramp lowered, Patrick took a deep breath, steeling himself for whatever reception awaited them. The sight that greeted them was a study in contrast. On one side of the landing pad stood a group of Zorn officials, their expressions carefully neutral. On the other, a crowd of curious onlookers pressed against security barriers, their faces a mix of wonder and suspicion. As Patrick and Vera stepped onto Zorn soil, Lyra wriggled in her mother's arms, eager to explore. The moment her feet touched the ground, a ripple of gasps spread through the crowd. Where Lyra's toes met the metallic surface, tiny green shoots began to sprout, pushing through microscopic cracks. The Zorn officials murmured among themselves, their composure slipping in the face of this unexpected phenomenon. One of them, a tall figure with mottled green skin, stepped forward. "I am High Counselor Vex," he announced, his voice a gravelly rumble. "Welcome to Zorn Prime, representatives of Novus." Patrick inclined his head in greeting, careful to maintain eye contact. "We're honored to be here, High Counselor. We come in the spirit of peace and cooperation." As they spoke, the small patch of greenery around Lyra's feet continued to expand. Delicate flowers in shades of blue and purple unfurled, their petals shimmering in the harsh Zorn sunlight. The crowd's murmurs grew louder, a mix of awe and unease. Vex's eyes narrowed as he observed the spreading vegetation. "It seems your arrival is already having an impact on our world. Perhaps we should continue this discussion indoors." As they followed the Zorn delegation towards a towering structure of gleaming metal and glass, Patrick noticed Zorn workers hurriedly cordoning off the area where Lyra had stood. He shared a concerned look with Vera. This was only the beginning, and already their presence was causing ripples. Inside the Zorn government complex, they were led to a vast chamber where a group of Zorn children waited. Patrick's heart clenched at the sight of them. Each child bore visible signs of genetic defects: misshapen limbs, pallid skin, eyes clouded with cataracts. Dr. Lyra stepped forward, her voice gentle as she addressed the Zorn medical team. "With your permission, we'd like to allow Lyra to interact with the children. We believe her unique energy signature may have beneficial effects." The lead Zorn physician, a female with intricate scarification patterns on her scalp, nodded tersely. "Proceed. But be warned, if we detect any sign of distress in our young, this experiment ends immediately." Vera set Lyra down, watching with a mixture of pride and anxiety as her daughter toddled towards the Zorn children. For a moment there was silence, broken only by the soft whir of medical monitoring equipment. Then as Lyra reached out to touch the hand of a Zorn boy, the air seemed to shimmer. A soft glow emanated from the point of contact, spreading slowly over the child's body. The boy gasped, his clouded eyes clearing, the green of his skin taking on a healthier hue. The Zorn physician rushed forward, her scanner whirring. "Impossible," she breathed, staring at the readout. "His genetic stability is improving, in real time." As word of the miracle spread, more Zorn parents brought their children forward. Lyra moved among them, her small hands leaving trails of healing energy in their wake. Patrick watched in awe, his chest tight with emotion. This was what they had hoped for, but seeing it unfold before his eyes was beyond anything he had imagined. High Counselor Vex approached, his earlier skepticism replaced by cautious hope. "Your daughter's abilities, they could change everything for our people. We've struggled for generations with the effects of inbreeding. If there's a chance to reverse that..." Patrick nodded, seizing the moment. "This is just the beginning, High Counselor. With your permission, we'd like to establish a temporary research facility here on Zorn Prime. Together, we can explore the full potential of human-alien hybridization." As Vex considered the proposal, a commotion erupted outside. Through the windows, Patrick could see a crowd gathering, their faces pressed against the glass. News of Lyra's abilities had spread like wildfire. In that moment, watching his daughter bring hope to a world that had once been their enemy, Patrick felt a surge of grit. The challenges ahead were daunting, but they had taken the first crucial step. As he met Vera's gaze across the room, their mental link hummed with shared purpose. Their galactic tour had begun, and with it, the promise of a new era for all species. The success on Zorn Prime marked the beginning of a remarkable journey that spanned years and countless worlds. As the Hope's Ember emerged from faster-than-light travel for the final time, Patrick felt a familiar tightness in his chest. Earth, humanity's ancestral home, filled the view screen. "We're here," Vera whispered, her hand finding Patrick's. Lyra, now a poised teenager, stepped between her parents. Her eyes, still swirling with galaxies, widened at the sight of the blue-green orb. "It's beautiful," she breathed. The ship's sensors pinged incessantly as they detected a massive gathering of vessels in Earth's orbit. Captain Karan's voice crackled over the comm system. "We're being hailed by the Earth Defense Fleet and about 100 other ships from across the galaxy." Patrick nodded, squeezing Vera's hand. "Put them through." A cacophony of greetings in various languages filled the bridge. Patrick recognized the gravelly tones of Zorn diplomats, the melodic speech of Barzan representatives, and countless others they'd encountered on their journey. At the center of it all, A warm human voice cut through the noise. "Welcome home, Hope's Ember. Earth awaits you with open arms." As they began their descent, the effect of Lyra's presence on the planet became immediately apparent. The smog-choked atmosphere began to clear, revealing patches of vibrant blue. Barren landscapes they passed over erupted with new growth, green tendrils reaching towards the sky. Lyra pressed her hand against the viewport, her face a mix of wonder and concentration. "I can feel it," she murmured. "The planet. It's calling to me." The Hope's Ember touched down in a vast clearing that had once been the heart of a sprawling metropolis. Now nature had reclaimed it, with towering trees and lush vegetation breaking through the remnants of human construction. A sea of faces, human and alien alike, stretched as far as the eye could see. As the boarding ramp lowered, Patrick's heart raced. He scanned the crowd, searching for familiar faces he'd left behind so many years ago. Suddenly, he spotted them, older, grayer, but unmistakable. His parents, his siblings, tears streaming down their faces as they pushed through the crowd. Patrick broke into a run, Vera and Lyra close behind. He collided with his family in a tangle of arms and tearful laughter. "You're here," his mother sobbed, cupping his face. "You're really here." The reunion was cut short as a hush fell over the crowd. All eyes turned to Lyra, who stood at the base of the ramp, her eyes closed in deep concentration. A visible pulse of energy emanated from her, spreading outward in concentric circles. The effect was immediate and awe-inspiring. As the wave passed, withered plants sprang to life. The very air seemed to shimmer, becoming cleaner and more vibrant. Humans and aliens alike gasped as they felt a surge of vitality course through them. Lyra opened her eyes, a smile playing at the corners of her mouth. "It's time," she said softly. Patrick nodded, guiding his family towards a makeshift stage. As they took their places, cameras from around the world and across the galaxy focused on them. Patrick stepped forward, his voice carrying across the hushed crowd. "People of Earth, citizens of the galaxy, we stand before you today not as conquerors or saviors, but as bridges between worlds. Our journey began with a simple act and has led us across the stars, forging alliances and healing rifts centuries in the making." Vera joined him, her voice strong and clear. "We've seen wonders beyond imagination and witnessed the power of cooperation between species. But our greatest discovery has been the potential that lies within all of us when we come together." Lyra stepped forward, her presence commanding despite her youth. She raised her hands, and the air around her began to shimmer with awe-inspiring energy. "What I'm about to do," she addressed the crowd, her voice echoing across the planet and beyond, "is not a gift or a miracle. It's a reminder of the connection we all share, with each other and with the worlds we inhabit." With that, Lyra closed her eyes and channeled her energy into the Earth itself. A visible wave of force exploded outward, racing across the globe. In its wake, polluted oceans cleared, ice caps reformed, and the very air seemed to pulse with renewed life. But the transformation didn't stop there. Around the world, long-dormant seed banks and genetic vaults burst open. Species thought lost to time sprang back into existence, populating rejuvenated ecosystems in a matter of hours. As the wave of energy completed its circuit of the globe, a new era dawned. Representatives from countless worlds stepped forward, signing a historic treaty that would establish Earth as a galactic hub for genetic research and environmental restoration. In the days that followed, a new city began to take shape around the landing site. Alien bioarchitecture blended seamlessly with Earth's natural beauty, creating a living symbol of interstellar unity. Patrick and Vera watched in amazement as their dream of cooperation between species became a tangible reality. One evening, as the sun set on this new world, Patrick found himself standing on a hilltop overlooking the fledgling city. Vera joined him, slipping her hand into his. "Who would have thought," Patrick mused, a smile playing at his lips, "that all of this began with a simple donation?" Vera laughed, leaning into him. "Breeding juice," she corrected with a smirk. They turned as Lyra approached, accompanied by a diverse group of young humans and aliens, the first students of the newly established Academy for Interstellar Leadership. As they stood together, watching ships from across the galaxy continue to arrive, Patrick felt a sense of completion. Their journey had transformed not just their lives, but the very fabric of galactic society. The Hope's ember rested nearby, a testament to their incredible adventure. As night fell and the stars emerged, Patrick gazed up at the vast expanse above. The universe that had once seemed so insurmountable now felt like home, filled with endless possibilities and new horizons to explore.
If you finished this story, please subscribe and like the video. Then leave a comment that says, "I liked the story," and I will heart every single one of them. It really helps me. Thank you for your time.